Going to go back and talk about Donald Trump once again now with Stephen. A bit of a trade war brewing between the US and Canada, isn't there?
Donald Trump says that Canada is being very rough on America in terms of trade. He's decided to rekindle a 35-year-old conflict with the country's northern neighbour by slapping fresh tariffs on Canadian lumber. The US Commerce Department says the levy of up to 24% was due to improper subsidies given to the industry by the Canadian government. Now, Trump spoke to the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, on Tuesday night, and he says the claims are baseless. Catherine Clifford reports.
Lumbering Canada with heavy tariffs on its timber. As President Trump met farmers, he signed an executive order he said was aimed at helping their communities, saying he's not worried about sparking a trade war with Canada as he rekindles this old trade conflict spanning 35 years.
People don't realize Canada has been very rough on the United States. Everyone thinks of Canada as being wonderful, and so do I. I love Canada. But they've outsmarted our politicians for many years.
On Monday, Washington announced it was slapping up to 24% tariffs on imports of Canadian softwood lumber, with some $5.6 billion worth of wood in the firing line. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau vowed to be firm on defending national interests.
Standing up for Canada's interests is what my job is, whether it's softwood or software.
Canadian lumber exports mostly go into US home building. US producers accuse their Canadian counterparts of exporting lumber at subsidized prices, harming American businesses. Accusations Canada describes as baseless.
Without the support of the Canadian lumber industry, it is US consumers that will be hurt. Constraining Canadian lumber imports and applying punitive duties creates price volatility in the market. And we are already seeing that reflected in higher lumber prices that are driving up the cost for American consumers.
The row is now spilling into milk trade. Trump said he won't put up with Canada's decision to extend trade tariffs to cover more dairy products, which is hurting US exports.
Turning to the stock markets next. We hit a record high on Wall Street on Tuesday when the Nasdaq passed 6,000 points for the first time. That was largely due to optimism over Donald Trump's tax reform plan, in which he plans to cut corporation tax. This is the picture on the European markets as things open up for trading today. We've got Paris down, London slightly up, Frankfurt just at the flat line there. It's not much movement on the European markets at the open. In Paris, though, the razor and pen maker BIC has seen its shares plunge by 9% after their latest results. The concerns over that company on the markets, at least. Over in Asia, American events had really been dominating early part of trading week. Gains across all main Asian markets. The Nikkei in Tokyo finishing up just over 1%.
Let's turn next to Pakistan. Received a massive cash injection from China.
Reports say that Beijing is providing more than $1 billion in loans to its neighbour to help ease a currency crisis. Officials telling the Financial Times that the state-backed Chinese banks have loaned Pakistan huge sums to shore up its currency reserves, which have been depleted by rising imports. The news is further indication of closer ties between Beijing and Islamabad. China is investing more than $60 billion in an economic corridor project in the country. Looking at some more of today's business headlines for you. Revenues at the French carmaker PSA rose by almost 5% in the first 3 months of the year. The company, which owns the Peugeot and Citroën brands, was boosted by increased sales in Africa and the Middle East. PSA says it's still hoping to see sales rise in China by 5% this year. Credit Suisse is planning to raise almost €3.7 billion in new capital. The funds will be used to pay for some of the costs of restructuring at the bank, as well as strengthening its reserves. Credit Suisse reported better than expected pre-tax profits in the first quarter of the year of 670 million Swiss francs, or around 615 million euros. And the chief executive of Yahoo, Marissa Mayer, is to be paid more than $180 million when the company is sold to Verizon. The sum includes stock options, a golden parachute payment and medical benefits. Mayer will leave the company when the $4.5 billion sale of the business goes through.
And then finally from Stephen, you could soon be able to order the future on Uber.
The ride-sharing firm says it plans to roll out flying cars on its service in Dallas-Fort Worth area by 2020, as well as in Dubai. The electric planes would carry passengers at a speed of around 240 kilometres an hour. The company's working with the firms Aurora and Pipstrel on the flying cars, as well as with property companies to create landing pads for the vehicles. There have been discussions too with NASA and the National Air Traffic Control Association in the United States about the project. Uber says that a flight in one of these cars will cost the same as its Uber X services do currently.
I'd get back to North Paris quite quickly, wouldn't I?
You
after
would,
my
yes.
shift?
You'd get home.
Get home in a few seconds.
Yeah.
Takes me a little while on the metro.
Nowhere
every
to
morning.
land, though.
Parachute?
The top of a department store,
Parachute.
maybe.
Just a rope would be fine. Just climb down. It's doing business on France 34.